I call on Jamie Greene to wind up the Conservative Party. 9 minutes, please, Mr Greene.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. We welcome this debate on the Scottish rural economy and Brexit. Indeed, it is good to see that some parties are not afraid to have a debate on Brexit. But believe it or not everyone who lives in rural Scotland, is a farmer, or a fisherman, or a forester. Many are, of course, but our perception of what rural Scotland is often clouded by the funds, grants, subsidies and quotas which often dominate the discussion, and rightfully so, and much has been said about that today. Now, the Cabinet Secretary talks about his worries on future access to a single market in the EU, whilst his party campaigns to leave Scotland's biggest trading union, the United Kingdom, which is worth 4 times more. The Cabinet Secretary talks about future LFAS payments, but failed to mention in his speech about the £10 million of LFAS payments which are outstanding from this year. Richard Lochhead made a very pertinent point, and that is that we do have to listen to the reasons why so many sections of our rural economy voted to leave the EU. We do have to have a look at the CAP system, and as my colleague Peter Chapman said, there is the potential to design a scheme which rewards farmers, not impoverishes them. Now, the Scottish Government have a bit of a cheek today to come to this chamber and call a debate on the rural economy post-Brexit, when it has failed our farmers so dismally pre-Brexit for the last 9 years. But don't just take my word for it, let's look at the facts. A common agricultural policy IT system, which, so far, is 160% over budget. CAP payments which are months late, with full payments yet to be received. And almost half of Scottish farmers are failing to make enough money to pay themselves the minimum wage. Farm business income is at the lowest levels in 6 years. This is a Scottish Government which took 18 months to fill the position of Chief Scientific Advisor. A Land Reform Act which undermines property rights. Presiding Officer, we are indeed in uncharted waters. There is no doubt about that. We should remember that we are, however, having a debate about something which hasn't happened yet, about negotiations which haven't started yet. We do not know which words will form the act which repeals, retains or reinvents the many thousands of laws, rules and regulations with which the EU governs. We have no crystal... I shall.
Mr Stevenson.
Given the indication that this will all operate via the royal prerogative, is he now announcing that the Westminster Parliament will actually have a debate and a say in what's happening on Brexit?
Mr Greene.
I think the Westminster Government is doing the right thing by exploring all options, and all options will be considered, which is why I said that some laws may be repealed, retained or reinvented. It is the right thing to do in this situation. We have no crystal ball here today, Mr Stevenson. The purpose of a debate such as the one we're having should be about laying ideas on the table. If the Scottish Government seriously wishes to have a positive debate about the future of rural Scotland, then I applaud it. However, if its purpose is to engineer a scenario whereby they decide that independence is the only and inevitable solution, then I fear they are missing the point completely of any upside which Brexit might present. The underlying tone of the Government's motion today is one which is not open to idea sharing, and given that 38% of Scots voted to leave the EU, I do not think, therefore, is representative of Scotland or accepts the democratic will of the people of the UK. I shall.
Cabinet Secretary.
I'm grateful for giving way. Could I just ask one simple question? Do the Scottish Tories believe that EU citizens living and working in Scotland are welcome here and should continue to be welcome here and be permitted to stay here?
Mr Greene.
I haven't heard anyone say that people in Scotland are required to leave. No one has said that. Has anyone heard anyone say that? No. I absolutely think that people who have come to make Scotland their home make a valuable contribution to Scotland, and I welcome that. Now, Emma Harper talks about Tory Brexit. We've heard that word used a lot in the last hour or so. She may be surprised to learn that there aren't 17.4 million Tory voters in the UK, last time I checked. Indeed, polls suggest that about a third of SNP voters backed Leave. Are they now Tories too? Yeah. Instead of finger-wagging at Westminster, we, the Scottish Conservatives, have set up our own advisory group to look at the risks and opportunities of Brexit, a frank, informed discussion. And it counts expertise such as Gavin Hewitt, former Chief Exec of Scotch Whisky, and Sir Ian Macmillan, former Director of CBI, amongst its membership. Much has been said in this chamber today about fisheries. Now let us remind ourselves of the three key asks of the SFF. That Brexit provides the opportunity to 1. The power to establish a more effective and reactive fisheries management system in our waters. 2. Fairer and more appropriate shares of catching opportunities for the industry in our waters. And 3. Identifies opportunities which includes the freedom to explore new markets for seafood. Now, Mr Stevenson raised some valid points, and that our two governments have to have a complex discussion on the future of fishing in the UK to get a deal that works for fishermen on both sides of the border. But the rural economy is about much more than agriculture. It is about connectivity in all its forms: roads, rail, ferries, internet access. Rhoda Grant makes an important point about rural broadband. It is not a luxury, it is a necessity. But the rural economy is also about how we manage our land, environment, biodiversity, energy, uplands and flood prevention. Mike Grumbles is right. Where is the vision on this? Where is the forward planning going on in the Scottish Government on Brexit? I'd like to conclude my speech by saying that, unlike the Scottish Government, we don't want Brexit to fail. We instead come to this debate with ideas on the rural economy. The Government's motion today fails to take responsibility for its actions over the last 9 years in government. Unlike the Scottish Government, we have ideas on the rural economy, and let me share some. To give planning exemptions to allow retiring farmers or new entrants to build a home on agricultural land. Opening the Scottish Land Fund to long leases. Investing an additional £5 million every year to the Community Broadband Scotland scheme. Supporting a safe expansion of aquaculture. Establishing new national parks. Our amendment respects the democratic result of the UK, and I think it is time that the Scottish Government gets on with making a success of that result for the whole of rural Scotland. Thank you.
Thank you very much.